Greetings traveler, Challenger here. Welcome to my channel. Today I am playing Diablo 2 Resurrected with... oh god, it is time. Amazon using spears. Not the lightning variant, but the physical one. I can already feel my sanity plummet into the oblivion, but honestly I need a bit of a challenge, so let's submerge ourselves into the deepest, darkest circle of suffering and let the challenge begin. Rules. Playing as physical variant of Spearzon, using charms and sockets. Run ends with killing Baal on Hell. This is solo self-found, no shared stash used. This is hardcore run, 1 life, no deaths. Spearzon, as name suggests, uses spears to deal damage. Most of the skills in javelins and spear tree can be used with this class of weapon, unless of course we are talking about throwing, then 4 skills on the right side are exclusive for javelins. That said, I will be using none of the good stuff from this tree and will focus solely on physical damage abilities, jab, impale and fend, together with slow attacking spears. I can already feel the pain. Amazon starts with javelin and the shield, so to hell with it. My fists will do the job just fine for the time being. Although spears are available instantly in the shop, I simply cannot afford them yet. Guess my perception about this game is broken after these runs, as it is completely normal to me to just go into the den of evil and box everything around with my bare fists. And there was one runner. Gotcha. Now that I got some money, I got myself a very basic spear with 2 open sockets from Charcy, and proceed with getting my first ability, Jab. It deals multiple hits in rapid succession with decreased damage and increased attack rating. And as you can see, rapid is not an accurate word so far. Second skill I'm taking is Critical Strike. It grants me a chance to do double damage with each strike. Perfect pairing with Jab. Immediately I see the problem. Jab is a single target and once target dies, it does not stop its animation, thus making me stuck and much more susceptible to damage. God, how can this be this awful from the start? Level 6 brings another passive, Dodge. It provides a chance of dodging the melee attack when attacking or standing still. I feel like these lines of passive will be very useful here. Even Deckard was not able to look me in the eye due to my sheer stupidity of running this build. He was like, yeah, I'm out. So spears are a very strange weapon class. Not that many rune words can actually be done in them. First one that is really available is Malice, and it is a great weapon for the beginning. Then there is Strength, which is used mostly for the crushing blow than anything else. But for example something like Insight that is only for polearms. So for now, let's get as much power as possible. I will leave worrying how to survive for the future challenger. With level 12, I got another set of skills. First, Impale, which has massive damage potential. It always hits and it cannot be interrupted and slows the target, but it can also quickly deplete weapons' durability. This is a boss killer and it is a good one. Second skill is Avoid. It gives passive chance to avoid missiles while attacking or standing still. With an ample supply of runes I went to Monastery, and here you can see the real power of Impale. Hits every time, making a shish kebab out of Smith. Imbue might be my out of jail card if I will lack a weapon in the future. I cannot tell you, however bad this build is against multiple enemies so far, it absolutely crushes bosses. Andariel here got skewered to death and it wasn't even close. As you can see, I did not change mercenaries at the beginning of this act. And this is because I want to try Act 3 mercenary later on, and because of my low mobility, it is nice to have someone to shoot. That said, that was Radament. Playing this build made me realize how badly it needs some sort of gap closer. If only Impale would do a run up to a target, it would be just a little bit better and less clunky. That said, I did stealth in a splint mail, probably for the first time ever, just for additional defense. While I am here in town, I also bought this Spetum and did Malice. Even though I don't have strength to wield it now, I would next level, and it would massively improve my damage. It is astounding how this build is exceptional at being bad with dealing with more than 3 monsters at this point. I really feel like Fan should swap places with Impale, although I am describing the skills as some sort of a messiah, and I can already sense that I am setting myself for disappointment. I had runs where I couldn't deal with immune monsters in this place, and somehow this is still the slowest I got through this to get the stuff. Ever. Got to next level and I got another passive, Penetrate, which grants passive bonus to attack rating. Also, I mentioned in the beginning that jab attacks with decreased damage, but in further levels it is actually the opposite. The higher the level, the higher the damage. Malice is very strong at this point. If something doesn't die in one hit, then open wounds proc will get them, and it's just a matter of hitting a monster. I am one jab woman. I found a set breastplate in a Talrasha's tomb, Eisenhart's case. Pretty bad, but it will do for mercenary for now. Get me a pack of thawing potions, and now to fight the giant bug. And as expected, fight isn't very hard. Impale makes short work of him and I am taking all the damage while Amplisa can fire away uninterrupted. But my god am I slow. Our meat cannot be frozen, otherwise the future is bleak. First NPC I talked to was Ormus and I saw that he had a teleport staff to sell. So I got myself this treat. I will try not to use it, but you never know when it can be useful. Another thing is to hire Jalani. Since my damage is almost exclusively physical, I wondered if Enchant can be useful here. It provides additional fire damage and attack rating, and this is probably the first time in 20 years that I got myself an Iron Wolf mercenary. Got myself a first Jade figurine for additional health and an Ifrun drop alongside Kalim's Eye. Now for Gidbin, and I got a ring from Ormus which will help a constant life drain from Malice. It's not the best, but it's the first piece with life leech that I have. What a drop, and so early on. Unique chain gloves that are of course chance guards. Very low roll, but I won't say no to additional magic find, especially at this point in the run. I went to Ruin Temple to ruin the lives of the demons there, and with my incredibly slow pokes we managed to clear the place to get back the Black Book and set longsword Cleglo's Claw. For single target damage, especially together with enchant from my mercenary, I cannot really complain. As you can see, Council didn't really have any chance against us, or rather just me. So Mephisto wasn't really an issue. Sure, he can hit hard, but I am hitting even harder. And with a combination of Impale and Jab, I managed to down him, and actually I brought my weapon with the very last hit. He drops Set Amulet, which is Severb's icon. Since I have great path to Mephisto, I went back a couple of times and got few drops. Katan's Seal Ring, unique Ringmail Dark Glow, and unique Dirk, which is the Diggler. I farmed a bit until I almost hit next level, and with that I can finally take Fend. This skill hits all adjacent targets with increased damage and attack rating, and for now it works against Pack much better than what I had. Also another passive, Evade, gives me a passive chance to avoid the attack while moving. Fend has the same problem as Jab, that it locks you in the animation until it really hits everything in its vicinity, but I don't have any alternative to pack clearing for now, and it's honestly working pretty great, especially with the open wounds proc. So you know how every class got its class specific equipment in Lord of Destruction, but Amazon is the only class in the game that actually got 3 different class specific weapons. Those are javelins, spears and bows. All of them are really powerful, and some bases can really create great rune wards. I never thought I would say this, but the playstyle of Spearzon is even more dull than the Charge Paladin, and here I am, I have 3 skills instead of 1. But you know, I am either jabbing, or jabbing hard, or jabbing multiple enemies. My mercenary has more flair than this. One thing to like about this build is the fact that all of those passives are really adding up, making this character tankier than it looks. half of the time monsters are not able to hit me, and when they do, they are most likely already dead. Diablo was incredibly stressful. At least twice he slowed me down and he proceeded to cast lightning breath, leaving me in animation very concerned for my life. I also had a pike on the swap, as it has a chance to cast amplified damage on strike, but it never triggered, so I had to resort to either normal attacks or impale almost exclusively, just not to lock myself and possibly die. He also decided to be an absolute bitch about the drops, as the unique edgebow dropped, which is Sky Strike, which would be extremely good weapon for Spearzon now. There is also a unique studded leather Twitch throw, which is amazing due to 20% increased attack speed, and set chain gloves from the clay gloves set. My Malice Spetum is a bit rusty by this point, but as I mentioned, there are not that many rune works that can be done in Spears, so I'd love either a unique or a rare drop to replace it sometime soon. That said, socket quest might come handy very early on. Eventually I would love to do both Spirit Sword and Shield for my Mercenary, granted that this build that I have in mind will be doing its job. So far, Enchant is a nice addition, but in the future I hope it will help me deal with physical immunes. I'm in no rush of finishing this act. I am literally fighting everything in my path. It sounds like I have a choice and would be able to run off into sunset carefree, but no, I am doing that out of necessity and the fact that I cannot outright anything. Now I am unfreezing Anya, and aside from my cold resistance, everything else is looking good. But you remember that I told you about 3 different class specific weapons? Anya! Inside Nilatak's temple I found a Doll Rune, and also this rare Spetum, which is a bit better than what I have, mainly due to lightning damage and amplified damage proc, but that does not mean that Malice is useless. Sorry, another rant about animations, but sometimes it seems that after ending the attack, model of Amazon is stuck in place and cannot really move even though animation is over for quite some time, and I don't really understand it, but maybe it is tied to the frame rate of the original game. Now after that I decided to jump on the gambling bandwagon to switch my helmet, and this is the first thing I got, and well, it is good. Although faster cast speed does not affect me, rest of the stuff is just amazing. Just before the Ancients I hit level 30 and I cannot, because I am unable to do basic math. Normally I would take Valkyrie, a powerful summon that would be my sister in battle. Instead I have to take Decoy, which is still very useful as it can drag away the attention away from me. I was really anxious about this fight. Initially I wasn't able to split them, but that's where the Decoy comes in, and with its help we managed to separate Korlik from the pack and quietly assassinate him. Once that was done, it was Madog's time to fall. Last was Talik, and he was doing a lot of damage, but my stabs are deadlier, and with that I can finally take a point into Valkyrie. Valkyrie was actually one of the points why I decided to go with Iron Wolf Mercenary. He's also enchanting her weapon to deal fire damage, and now there are 2 of us. She doesn't use the same abilities like Jab or Fend, but does benefit from the numerous passive abilities from my skill tree. Bale was hard, mostly because I thought I was doing a lot of damage, when in reality bosses are still tanky as hell, or it was just him. I used Fend to destroy appendages when they were close, and every now and again I switched to Malice to trigger open wounds. I had a couple of close calls, mainly because of the animation stack. It slowly but surely I pushed on, and once he was dead, he dropped a slew of items. Unique Poleaxe, Battle Branch, Set Saber, Angelic Sickle, Set Gauntlets, Saigon's Gauge, they would be amazing if I could find the boots, and Unique Ring Dwarf Star, which will be a massive piece for my survivability later on. My build for now. Attributes are mainly Vitality with some dose of Strength and Dexterity. Skill wise I mostly leveled Jab and Fend, but also a lot of point went into passive abilities to improve my tankiness. Gear-wise, Mercenary just have some random stuff with mostly resistances. As for me, I have my Chance Guards and Stealth. Rest are pieces with resistances and as much health and magic fight as possible. Nightmare brings a slew of possibilities and upgrades to get. I am already predicting that I will stay here longer than I initially expected and will be marred by endless grinding sessions just to be able to move on, but hey, I signed up for this with this run. While I was looking for the Scroll of Inifus, I got myself a Hell Rune, followed by much better Shale. So I did find a tree, beat the tree feast, got the scroll, moved to Tristram to Ficane. Now more important manners. Countess. I will need several runes to make my life just a little bit easier. God damn it! While farming Countess, a set build dropped from this weapon rack. And that is Juanin's Justice. And on the same run I got a unique amulet, Nokozan Relic. On the next run I got a unique plated belt, Blade Buckle. I found this dimensional blade with 4 open sockets. It would be perfect for spirit, but it requires 85 strength and Jelani is not strong enough. Yet. And never mind, because I found a crystal sword with same amount of sockets. So I took a break from Countess runs and did the spirit. Tal Thul Ort Am. And of course I am getting perfect FCR roll when it is not for me. At least Jelani will be much more powerful, so let's get him Lore Helmet alongside that sword. Ort Soul. Perfect. At long last I found another armor rune and even 3 open socket mask. Now I'm just missing base for weapon and iron rune to make myself a helmet. But for now the supply looks good, so let's move on. You know what? I would love to imbue some spear. I just don't happen to find an even basic exceptional great white one. Why? Why, game? Andariel was nowhere near as bad as Bale. She takes a lot of damage and with the inclusion of enchant and her susceptibility to fire, fight was over really quick. Although I am really curious how those would look like once I get Strength Rune Ward. She dropped a unique double axe, Blade Bone. Seems like this thing is dropping left and right nowadays. I like killing her so much that I came back here multiple times and got a couple of things. First, those rare gloves with increased attack speed, triple resistances and almost the same amount of magic find as my Chance Guards. And on the same run I got a Rite of Passage set, Demon Hide Boots. Also I switched armors with Mercenary as he can use the stealth much better than I do, and his armor has a high defense, some life and can even repair itself. Next was a unique ring. Unfortunately it's only Manal's heal, but it might prove useful. If Jelani didn't already have a spirit, this would be a great alternative. A unique longsword, Hell Plague. What is happening? I didn't get a single unique spear, but already 2 good bows? Unique razor bow, Rip Hook. That bow drop was the ultimate cheek slap. So I went to Radamant as you can see Jelani really didn't like that hanging corpse, so he decided to grill it to perfection, while we were dealing with the enemy at hand. Now I am really surprised how well this Iron Wolf mercenary is performing in those tunnels. Sure, sometimes he is a bit janky as rogue mercenary, but for the time being he is way easier to gear and perform much better. Because I cannot find neither a base or an upgrade to my weapon, the only way to boost my damage is to upgrade the current weapon, so Ort Am and Perfect Sapphire. It's not amazing, but it should help. Lack of Crushing Blow is really noticeable, and fighting Duriel feels like I am wandering in a swamp as my movement is sluggish at best, but the damage is fine. Slow from the Impale really helps here and keeps us safe. He dropped a unique battle gauntlets which are Lava Gout, and they are not bad at all. With that chance to cast 10 level enchant, 20% increased attack speed and even some fire damage and fire resistance. Quick stroll through the jungle yields me another Jade figurine, and then I pay a visit to spiders in their filthy cave to grab Kalim's eye, before getting plastered by souls at Great Marsh. Great start. I don't really like this part of the game, and something tells me I'm not the only one. Go here, go there, get this, get that, so in the end you can kill the big bad, boo-hoo, who cares. Just let me go to him and kill him without any hassle. Those here are a legitimate threat. They can already explode for hundreds of damage, and I do not have enough damage reduction to take more than 3 at the same time. Bulwark Helmet would be something that could improve my life, but there is a missing piece here in form of Io Rune. Council members were not so eager to die. They were going outside one by one and dying by our spears. Fortunately, I have maxed out my fire resistance, and also I have Dwarf Star that gives me additional magic reduction and fire absorb, so dying here was not an option. Valkyrie is already at the point that she can withstand quite some punishment, so she is a very capable tank against bosses and only needs to be resummoned occasionally. Impale, however, is breaking weapons so effectively that I need to repair them mid-fight. Now, Mephisto, as your life is ending yet again, give me something, some good spear. No. No! That is a third exceptional bow. How? How can this happen to me? Unique rune bow, Mage Wrath, ladies and gentlemen. So fire damage is not great. I think it's the worst elemental damage in the game due to sheer amount of monster resistant or immune to it. And as you can already see in Nightmare, it can be problematic. So enchant itself is either providing very little damage or just attack boost rating. Some Doom Knights banded with Izuo to almost end my life, but I bounced back, regrouped and sent the Blue Devil, or rather Blue Fallen Angel, into his demise, and he dropped another unique amulet and another Nokozan relic. Valk again took the role of tank, while we were dishing out damage, and thank God she is made from titanium. A smith had Might Aura and was cursed, and although not the highest, Hellforge gave me an Io Rune, which is very much needed. I wanted a faster pace, but I am down on my luck, so I took this Maiden Pipe with 2 open sockets and created a Strength. But Crushing Blow is very needed now and should allow me to deal with bosses in just a fraction of current time. Of course, I am getting Source of Crushing Blow right after I created one. I got unique light plated boots which are Goblin Toe, sporting that 25% Crushing Blow chance. Clearing Chaos Sanctuary was already very painful, especially the mini-bosses like the Seis, who was hellbent on trying to kill me, and don't even get me started on Infector. I had to take laps around his Venom Lords just to snipe him with Impale. After all this, fighting Diablo was like running barefoot through a meadow in the spring. Just a joyful event. With Strength and Goblin Toes, fight took no longer than 40 seconds, and because Impale always hits, most of the time I was chunking his health until he shattered. Beginning of the act, I made myself a Bulwark Helmet for that physical damage reduction, lifesteal and whole slew of nice things, although my resistances are taking a dive. I am really considering resetting the build a little, since I am almost always using Fend, and if there is a need to deal with a single target, usually Impale is a way to go, and my 2 helpers are enough, and that way I could redistribute points into Valkyrie for her to be even more powerful. There is no build in this game that suffers more from being slow than this one. Normally your attacks are slow, but if something will further hamstring you, you are basically paralyzed. I would love a Ravenfrost or Death Sash. Well, Anya redeemed herself a bit, and this time she gave me a ceremonial pike, which isn't amazing, but hey, it's a spear. Maybe I will eventually use it. Took me several resets to get manageable modifiers for Ancients, but once that was done, there wasn't much competition here. Aside from Talik, as he was extra fast and extra annoying, we're winding around like an idiot or just running super fast. Also, one of my spears broke on him, so I had to finish it with the second one. Once I got through the Wardstone Keep and Throne of Destruction, And when to deal with the boss himself, well, it was a cakewalk. Bosses now are at least my problems, and they are dying left and right. Really crushing blow, kind of like static field, makes them docile and dead in seconds. So far my stats are divided between strength, some dexterity and lots of vitality, and I will be resetting my build since I am not really using jab. Gear-wise my mercenary eats good, and he is a very good companion. Now I need to boost my equipment as my damage needs repairing and my resistances are in absolute shambles. Now there is no place in hell for me now, so let's farm some bosses and terror zones. But first, a quick build readjustment. I maxed Fend and Impale and proceed to boost the rest of my points into Valkyrie and various passive skills. Farming with this build is atrocious. If you don't have good enough gear, nevertheless, I don't stand a chance in hell unless I will do some grinding and get some levels and equipment. So I got some drops that will eventually help me, but for now all the damage reduction is really paying off, although my resistances are in shambles and that is something that will need to be fixed as soon as possible. I also really need better weapon too, and I have every rune to get hustle, so I am hoping for some drops real soon, as without it I will perish. But for now I found a lamb rune. Each fight here is a test. If I stand in the middle just using Fend, monsters will overwhelm me and I will die. I can kill everyone eventually, but it is painstakingly slow with current gear, and overall progress is not great. Also, half of the enemies now are fire immune, so Iron Wolf Mercenary and by extension Enchant are pretty useless, and dealing with those is very much a chore. Once again, the arena where Andariel resides is brimming with fire immunes, so after dealing with those, a toxic Spider Queen wasn't much of an issue. She cycled her hits between me and Valkyrie and was actually quite competent at killing my female helper, but power of Impale and Crushing Blow is simply too powerful to withstand. Going into the desert and fighting beetles with negative lightning resistance is not a great plan. But there is no way but forward, and forward I need to march. Maggot Lair was one of the points why I did choose Fire Throwing Mercenary. There are physical immunes here and no fire resistant monsters, so the real monster here is the Swamp Magician slinging his balls of fire left and right. Being in Claw Viper Temple trying to deal with its denizens made me realize that aside from dealing with bosses, my character isn't really good with anything else, so after grabbing the amulet I went back to Rocky Ways to get my base. Unfortunately, I got this damaged Hyperion Spear, and just as good girlfriend is talking about her abusive boyfriend, I can fix it. Now, to make it usable I had to transmute it from damaged to normal, then proceed to use my socket quest from Nightmare, and because Hyperion Spear can have maximum of 3 sockets, it will always get maximum with the quest. And finally, with that I can make Hustle, Shale, Co, Elt, and this is a major power spike, with a chance to get burst of speed and that fanaticism aura, not to mention just great damage, racism to undead. One thing I lack at this point is Cannot Be Frozen, but this is a step into right direction. Extreme boost in attack damage and speed together with Enchant lets me blaze through Arcane Sanctuary, and do not mind the physical immune ghost, they are nothing to me. Because Hustle is extremely fast and bosses are dying now thanks to Crushing Blow, I took my Goblin Toe boots and went hunting for Duriel. and whole fight is a joke. Even when I am slowed down by his attacks and aura, I still managed to kill him very fast, to the point I was a bit surprised that the whole fight was under a minute. One thing I forgot to mention, none of the core skills I am using for this build, that is Jab, Impale and Fend, have any synergies. They perform as good as it gets, and you can really see how immensely they benefit from weapon speed and damage, to the point I wasn't really expecting them to. Still, the worst thing is how often I need to repair my weapons. They are breaking like toothpicks and, well, they are not far from it. And in Act 3, where Hradley is so far away, running to him every 5 minutes, it's not great. Now with Bulwark, Dwarfstar and Iron Pelt, I can withstand a lot of punishment. Add some Life Leech on top and you have a pretty decent frontline tank, but they scare me and I am not going to that party. I love when game decides that I suffered enough already and rewards me with a path of least resistance, when normally it is not uncommon to die here miserably. Council was... yeah, it was one of the council fights of all time. Endurance of Hate, one of the elites dropped me a pretty great thing. A unique Eldritch Orb, a Shoota's Temper. This can roll very widely and this one, as you can see, is not the greatest one. My resistances are tanking when Goblin Toads are on my feet, so I created Smoke Armor for massive 50 to all resistances, just not to be in all negatives when I wear them. Now by this point I really thought that Life Tap 1 will come into play, but Mephisto, being the absolute stat that he is, not only did not deal any damage to me, but he is dying so fast that it doesn't really matter. So I crafted this blood belt in previous act and I had to rearrange some charms to wield it, as it is not bad. 10% to open wounds, some life, fire resistance, it was prime time to get rid of my previous one. Skill points from Isual aren't really of use to me, so I didn't really look for him as I already have mostly what I need, and those points into passives now are really minor upgrades. I wasn't really looking for the Hellforge, although good rune would be nice, and it is quite apparent that Valk is much better at taking hits than me, and I am not expecting anything good. Oh my god, an Amrun. That is actually amazing. Finally, I tested the Life Tap Wand utility and it is quite funny. I can stand in the middle of the pack and as long as I am attacking there is no chance that I will die, except for one-shots. Of course, monsters in this act are made of lead and they are major pain in the ass, especially if bulk of the damage comes from fire, as they eat that for breakfast, making my mercenary look like an absolute buffoon. After putting myself through this absolute mess of a place, I was able to fight Diablo for the last time and watch him suffer as he tried to do every action in slow motion, while I was skewering him like a fish in the water. He dropped me another pair of chain cards, little bit better than the last ones. Honestly, I cannot believe that I managed to get to this point with this build and this mercenary. Maybe I did doubt myself in my abilities. Maybe I thought it would be impossible, but I guess playing Diablo almost exclusively for 5 months has its benefits. What really surprised me is that mercenary. He is really easy to gear with just stealth, spirit and lore. He can already perform great, and honestly, I might use him more in the future. With Ancients, it was a hassle to divide them, and even then, an actual fight took place. I had to take on Madak and Korlik at the same time, but with Life Tap and my helpers, this wasn't much of the problem. Talik was somehow even easier. Despite his innate fire immunity, he was skewered just like the others. Worst part now, Lister and his henchmen. They were extra fast and extra angry, fire resistant and overall stupid. We managed to split them into groups, slow everyone down with Impale, and crush under power of Spears. Bale was just a relief. He cannot do anything, and with life type enabled, I am not losing any health. Crushing Blow is doing the heavy lifting in terms of damage, and soon after the fight is done, and it doesn't even take more than 2 minutes. My setup by the end. Nice round level 80 with most of the stats taken into Vitality. Impale and Fend maxed along with Valkyrie, and rest of the points are just passives. Gear wise, Merc has Stealth, Spirit Sword, Lore Helmet and the Ward Shield for resistances. Most of my gear are resistances and health pieces, with Goblin Toes on swap for Crushing Blow and that amazing Hustle Spear. This was a grueling challenge. This build lives and dies by the gear, especially that those 3 core skills does not have any synergies and scales very much of the raw damage you can do. Fend can really benefit from some cold damage to slow everything down, and of course things like critical and deadly strike, open wounds and crushing blow. Also with some weapons that has innate slow like Kelpie Snare, it would be really beneficial. I ended up just leveling Impale for this, for massive damage and slow, and on later levels, loss of durability is less likely. Normally it would just be used once to slow down bosses and then use Jab as it deals 3 strikes and it can quickly trigger effects every time. My problem with this particular skill was the animation was breaking a lot, leaving me vulnerable lots of the times, and without good on-hit effects and lack of speed, I wasn't able to do much. Build itself can be very powerful, but it is expensive to gear up, and most importantly, it is extremely unfun to play. Maybe it is different in later stages, but do not play this in the playthrough. I do not recommend this at all. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more games and gaming challenges. Like it if you liked it and subscribe for more. Challenger departs.